This is Eufy's new standard outdoor camera, the Solocam S220, and it's one of the most comprehensive smart cameras I've tested so far. And I'm going to push the onboard AI to its absolute limits to try and trick it into thinking that my cameraman is actually a dog. So welcome back to another episode of STU'S Reviews. Now, I've tested tons of different security systems since I started this channel, and last year I took a look at the new Eufy Cam 3 system, and I mentioned then that it was one of my favourite smart camera systems by far. I felt like it was all of the best bits of different systems that I'd tried all blended into one, and in fact I loved it so much that after the review I ended up switching over almost all of my cameras around the country club to different Eufy options, and now they've added this, a smaller, extremely budget-friendly version of the cameras that were included with the Eufy Cam 3 system, except with a few extra killer features. But I'll talk about those in a bit. For starters, this thing is actually smaller than I thought it was going to be. It's hard to judge the size of it from the pictures on their website. So when it came through the post and ended up being sort of half the size of the S330 cameras, I was quite surprised. It's a little wider, but not by much, and it's just sort of stubby. A real short fat boy. Now, on one hand, this is great because it's smaller, neater, in my opinion, doesn't stand out and draw attention nearly as much as the other ones, although there are some considerations because it's got a smaller design, and that means that the battery is around half the size, sitting at 6,500 mAh versus the 13,400 mAh of the big boy S330s. But like the S330s, it's got its own dinky solar panel on the top, so really the battery is irrelevant because the sun is going to be charging this as long as the sun is out, which admittedly doesn't happen very often in Britain, but you can see from the app and the charge dashboard that regular sunlight will keep the battery completely stable, and then when it's really sunny it adds surplus to the battery, and in the last month I've even gone up in charge. Even if it were the end of days and nuclear fallout was to block the sun, it would take around 3 months before this actually ran out of energy. So I think it's safe to say that there's not much worry about a lack of sunlight here because it's got a big enough battery to last in between. Now, I love the built-in solar panels on top of the S330s for the fact it keeps these devices eternally charged, and the fact that it looks way neater than having a separate panel connected by 10 meters of cabling to the camera. So it's fantastic to see Eufy now including these solar panels not just on their highest spec range, but now on more budget-friendly options like the S220s like this. But just because it's budget doesn't mean that it isn't exemplary, because the S220 is supported by the Homebase 3, which allows you to sync it up within the app, and it immediately gives you access to a powerhouse of features through the Eufy Edge ecosystem that originally drew me to the Eufy system in the first place. Now, pairing up like this, it has access to the AI features that the Homebase 3 provides to every other camera that connects to it, such as AI recognition for humans, vehicles, and pets, so that you can get accurate notifications about each individual event. Not only this, but by pairing it with the Homebase 3, you can get facial recognition as well, meaning that you can filter by person and get notifications for when the system detects a person that it will recognize. Now, this is super handy for getting a quick glance at who is coming or who is going out of the house or what is happening. But I want to draw your attention to something that the S220 has that the S330s don't have, and that's the ability to work on its own. Now, you don't actually need to pair it with the Homebase 3 for these AI features or to even use it. You can pair it directly to the Wi-Fi, and it even has access to some of the AI features with onboard AI. And now this is a really good decision from Eufy because it means that it will appeal to a much larger number of people, those with Eufy systems already and those perhaps who only want the camera. Admittedly, the onboard AI isn't as robust in terms of its feature set as the Homebase 3, but it's still pretty good for a standalone device. Now, the main form of AI is human detection only, which removes notifications for anything other than humans. Now, this for me is perhaps the most important form of AI, especially if you're like me and have very large pets. Now, I don't want, for example, my garden camera going off every few minutes if the dogs are in the garden. However, the moment an unscrupulous individual comes in to steal my panties off the washing line, I get a notification to my phone. But it's all very well and good testing it like that. To truly test how well it performs under these conditions, I've asked Ryan to try and trick the system into thinking that he's a dog. I didn't know you were already on all fours. Right, so we're going to try and trick the Eufy security camera in thinking that Ryan is a dog to see if he can indeed steal my panties from the washing line. All right, here, boy. Good boy. Hey! Bad dog. Guys, if you enjoyed tests like that, do make sure you hit that thumbs up and let me know that you enjoyed them as well, because if you do enjoy them, I'll keep doing the weird, kind of wacky, fun tests. But it does show something very, very important about this camera. And that's that despite the fact that Ryan managed to do a really convincing dog impression, it actually detected him as a human, which I think is quite remarkable. And it gives me pretty high confidence that even if a burglar were to dress up as a furry friend, then the camera will most likely suss out the difference. Now, in respect to the actual video recording capabilities, it's not the best, but it does record in 2K, which is respectable enough to capture pretty good detail at a pretty good distance away from the camera. And it also has some excellent night vision capabilities too with the onboard IR LEDs. This footage, when being used as part of the wider system, will be sent directly to the Homebase 3 for local storage. And when being used as a standalone device connected directly to the Wi-Fi, it has an internal 8GB memory, again, so that it can store all of the recorded clips locally. Now, this is fantastic stuff because it means that you never have to sign up to a subscription plan to access the full suite of features that Eufy offer. And they offer everything within the quoted price of the product that you pay. Now, I've lost track of the amount of times that I've tested security camera systems only to be hit by surprise subscriptions that you need to subscribe to get any form of normal function from the device. Like Ring, for example, which is atrocious. But it's important to note that there is a slight downside to using local storage in that if someone were to come in and steal the camera or the home base that you were using it with, the footage would be gone along with it. But still, using the onboard memory and local storage could end up saving you nearly £100 a year if you compare that to other systems which hide some of these features, like storing and viewing of clips or the AI features behind paywalls. Just as a side note, there are subscriptions available to back up your clips to the cloud, but those are completely optional, and I think that's pretty good. This local storage element isn't just about saving you money, it's also about security and privacy, giving you complete control over your own data. And you know what? Last year, Eufy addressed concerns about its cloud-based services by bolstering encryption, undergoing third-party security audits, and it even began implementing a bug bounty program, which to me reinforces their commitment to security and privacy, and that has since increased my confidence in these products, certainly from a security standpoint. And I actually really love this little device, and I think that it's a real refinement from the previous cameras. The only thing this is really missing is a spotlight, but then they've specifically made this small, and by adding things like a high-powered spotlight, it would require a bigger body or a bigger battery, which in turn would cost more, which is why cameras like the S330 are more expensive. I think this is a really good balance between value, money, and spec. And It's an excellent addition to the Eufy lineup. Sure, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles like a spotlight or colour night vision, and yes, some of the specs aren't top of the range, like the internal battery or the recording quality, but it's not meant to. This really has been designed to give users the best possible experience for as little money as they could make it for. And I think that if you're in the market for a standalone security camera, this is certainly one of the best options out there at this moment in time for the specs versus the value. And if you already have a Eufy system with a Homebase 3, well, it's not going to break the bank if you want to add one or two of these to the system that is already extremely powerful. And it'll bring more power to this. So, is it a buy? I think so, and I think it's actually a pretty good buy indeed. And if you want to check out my original review of the Eufy Cam 3 system, where I do go into details about the AI functionality of the Homebase 3, which this new camera can utilize, I'll link it above and in the description below. But other than that, guys, as a reminder, if you enjoyed today's episode and you want to see more slightly wacky tests, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, and I'll see you back for another episode of STU'S Reviews soon.